Retro Road Test, 1999 Honda Fireblade vs Yamaha YZF-R1. The Gentleman vs the Hooligan. The late 1990s were a golden era for motorcycling. Power figures were rocketing skywards, handling was being sharpened to surgical precision, and weight was being slashed as if manufacturers had all secretly signed a pact to see who could create the first motorcycle capable of warping time and space. Honda had started the modern superbike war back in 1992 with the original Fireblade. It was a revelation, light, compact, and fast enough to turn sports bike convention upside down. Riders who'd grown used to hefty GSX-R 1100s suddenly found themselves on something that felt like a 600 with the heart of a liter bike. But by 1999, Honda's once untouchable machine was no longer the sole king of the hill. Yamaha, who'd been plotting in the background, unleashed the YZF-R1 in 1998. A bike that didn't just nudge the benchmark forward, it kicked it off a cliff. The Fireblade was the brilliant all-rounder, the balanced masterstroke of engineering. The R1 was the lunatic, the one that made you reconsider whether your will was up to date before you twisted the throttle. By 1999, both had been refined, both were at their peak, and both were fighting for the crown. Let's see how they compare when ridden back to back, with equal amounts of enthusiasm, terror, and occasional laughter. First impressions, the look of legends. If you were lucky enough to walk into a bike dealership in 1999, the Fireblade and the R1 would have been the two machines stopping you dead in your tracks. The Honda Fireblade, CBR 900R, of '99 was an evolution of the original Tadal Barber masterpiece. Still sharp, still compact, but with subtle refinements. The twin headlamps gave it a purposeful stare, the fairings were tight and tidy, and the whole bike had a kind of understated aggression. It was the choice of riders who wanted to look fast without shouting about it too much. The Yamaha YZF-R1, on the other hand, shouted from the rooftops. Short, squat, and angry-looking, it was the superbike equivalent of a bar brawl waiting to happen. The fairing was minimal, the stance aggressive, and the overall impression was of a bike that wasn't just ready to go fast, it demanded it. Even at a standstill, the R1 looked like it was about to leap off its side stand and tear down the high street on its own. Parked next to each other, the Blade looked like the professional, sharp suit, polished shoes, while the R1 was the leather-jacketed yob smoking outside the pub, daring you to say something. Engines, gentlemen and bruisers. On paper, the difference is stark. Honda CBR 900R Fireblade, 1999. 929cc inline-4. 128 bhp at 10,500 rpm. 67 pound-foot torque. Top speed, ~170 miles per hour. Yamaha YZF-R1, 1999. 998cc inline-4. 150 bhp at 10,000 rpm. 72 pound-foot torque. Top speed, ~175 miles per hour. Swing a leg over the Fireblade, thumb the starter, and you're greeted by a smooth, eager engine note. The Honda inline-4 feels civilized, revving freely and delivering its power in a progressive, linear fashion. There's no intimidation here, just a feeling that the bike wants to work with you, not against you. Keep it in the sweet spot above 7,000 rpm and it'll pull hard, but it never feels overwhelming. Now, hop on the Yamaha. Start it up, twist the throttle, and suddenly the air feels charged. The R1's motor is a brute. It has that same free-revving eagerness, but the sheer force it delivers is another level. The first time you pin the throttle in second gear, you'll swear the front wheel is trying to escape Earth's gravitational pull. Acceleration is savage, relentless, and just a bit terrifying. The difference. The Fireblade gives you speed you can use every day. The R1 gives you speed you'll struggle to justify outside of a racetrack or a German autobahn. Winner, R1 for outright lunacy, Fireblade for everyday sanity. Handling, friend or foe. Honda had spent much of the 90s perfecting the Fireblade's handling. It was light, flickable, and confidence-inspiring. The 1999 Blade carried on that legacy with a chassis that offered stability at high speed and composure in the corners. It was the sort of bike that made you feel like a better rider than you were. Yamaha, however, had built the R1 with one purpose: to dominate. Its compact chassis and short wheelbase made it feel like a 600 with twice the power. Point it into a bend and it responded instantly, slicing through corners like a scalpel. At speed, it was intoxicating. But there's a flip side. The R1 demanded respect. Where the Blade would forgive a clumsy input, the R1 would punish you. Get greedy with the throttle mid-corner and you'd be on the receiving end of a high side so quick you'd still be wondering what happened as you landed. Winner, Blade for confidence, R1 for precision, if you've got the skills. Comfort and everyday use. You might scoff at the idea of comfort when we're talking about 170 miles per hour superbikes, but for anyone who actually uses their bike on the road, it matters. The Fireblade was built with real-world riding in mind. The seat was less punishing, the bars a touch higher, and the ergonomics more forgiving. You could happily do a day's ride without hobbling off like you'd just done 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. The R1, however, had all the comfort of a park bench. The seat was thin, the riding position aggressive, and the whole bike screamed track day rather than touring holiday. Sure, you could commute on it, but your wrists and back would be filing complaints by Friday. Winner, Fireblade for keeping your chiropractor unemployed. Brakes and stopping power. Both bikes were equipped with serious stoppers, but Yamaha's R1 just edged it. The Blade's brakes were strong, progressive, and perfectly adequate for fast road riding. But grab the R1's 298mm discs and you felt like you'd just deployed an aircraft carrier arrestor hook. They were sharper, stronger, and a better match for the R1's brutal engine. Winner, R1. Ownership and running costs. Back in 1999, both bikes commanded top money. The R1 was the shiny new thing, the Blade the proven stalwart. Insurance companies quaked at the sight of the R1 on a policy form, while the Blade was only marginally kinder on your premiums. Honda had the edge in reliability and finish. The Fireblade was built like a tank, with a reputation for shrugging off miles with little more than regular servicing. The R1 was reliable too, but it had that slightly more delicate Yamaha finish. Owners will recall the infamous tendency for fasteners to corrode if you so much as showed them a cloud. Winner, Fireblade for bulletproof longevity. On the road, rider impressions. Take the Blade down a twisty B-road and you'll grin like a fool. It flatters your inputs, rewards smooth riding, and never feels like it's out to kill you. You can push it hard and still feel in control. It's fast, yes, but approachable. Take the R1 on the same road and you'll emerge at the other end slightly shaken but buzzing with adrenaline. It's raw, direct, and brutally fast. It's like drinking 3 espressos in one gulp, exhilarating, but not something you can sustain for long without consequences. The verdict. So, which wins? The 1999 Yamaha R1 was the definitive superbike of its era. It had the power, the handling, and the image to dominate. If you were brave enough to tame it, it rewarded you with a riding experience like no other. It was the hooligan's dream. But the 1999 Honda Fireblade still had its place. It was fast, yes, but it was also balanced, forgiving, and more practical. For many riders, it offered 95% of the R1's thrills with 50% of the fear. Final word. Buy the Yamaha R1 if you want to feel alive every time you open the throttle, and don't mind occasionally soiling your leathers. Buy the Honda Fireblade if you want to enjoy your riding without constantly testing your life insurance policy.